So you want to PR your next marathon. Let me show you how I was able to shave off 20 minutes in my marathon and break this sub 3 hour under 5 months. Let's go. What's going on, guys? As you guys saw, today's video, I'm gonna be talking about how I was able to shave off 20 minutes in my marathon and was able to break the sub 3 hour. Disclaimer, I am not a professional running coach or a professional nutritional coach, so please take any of this advice with a grain of salt, as this is what has worked for me. I know everyone's different, so I just hope that whatever I do share with you today helps you out, PR your next race, or in any way, shape, or form, it helps you out. Now, let's get back to the video. If you're new to my channel, let me give you a little brief summary of my running background. So I did my first marathon back in 2022. It was April 2022 here in Brooklyn, New York. I had a time of 3 hours and 25 minutes. I'm not gonna get into too much just because today's topic is just about what I was able to do from my last marathon to this one and how I was able to break sub 3. So that was my first marathon. After my first marathon in April, I stopped running for the last 8 months and I got back into running in 2023. I did my first ever official half marathon in Austin, Texas, where I hit a 1 hour and 29 minutes. And then I did my second marathon, and that was my first ever sub 3 hour attempt at Pittsburgh, where I had a 3 hour and 20 minutes. And Philadelphia this past November is where I was able to go for my second attempt at sub 3 and was able to hit and break the sub 3 hour marathon. So that's kind of my running background of where it all really began. So with that being said, now let's actually get into what I did differently in this marathon and how I was able to break that sub 3 hour. So my first tip is proper nutrition and proper fueling. So that means proper carbs, understanding proper gels, hydration, electrolytes, sodium. So in my first attempt at sub 3 back in Pittsburgh, I was naive, and all my whole prep, I kind of just trained off like my mindset, right? Like, oh, I'm strong enough for this. I'm gonna push through because my mind is strong, which is kind of stupid to think in myself. So that was the first mistake. So for this prep, we did have a 14-week prep. We started back in August, and throughout the whole prep, I made sure that I was so dialed in with my nutrition, meaning carbs, hydration. So I'll give you a quick example, right? So let's say this week we had a 60-mile easy run or 60-mile marathon workout. I'll make sure that I will dial in so accordingly to simulate how it will be for race day. So starting on Wednesday, I'll have a 3-day carb load. Starting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I make sure to have around 400 grams of carbs, and then also having 5,000 milligrams of sodium Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, just to make sure that when Saturday come for the long run, I feel correctly. I made sure that I topped up my glycogen. I made sure that hydration wasn't going to be an issue and that I wasn't gonna cramp, and also to make sure that this is how I was supposed to feel when it came to race day. Because for race day, you know, a lot of times you see people just trying different things or saying, oh, I'm gonna carb up now on 2 days before race day and this is gonna work out. No, you have to do it through prep. That's why it's called the prep, right? Because you're preparing for race day. So I made sure I dial in correctly. So for my carbs, some examples or some things that I was using for carbs was rice, pasta, rice cakes, sourdough. Those really sit well with my stomach and they felt great for me, and overall made sure that I did the same exact thing for race day. Secondly thing was my electrolytes. So I was using the switchback electrolytes. I was having, like I said, I was having 5,000 milligrams of sodium, and they, I believe, have 1,000 per serving. So what I was doing is I'll have 2 scoops AM, 2 scoops midday, so around like 1 p.m. ish, and then 1 scoop before I went to sleep. And I'll do that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday throughout the whole prep. So Again, so like that could be properly hydrated. And then when it came to race day, I did the same exact thing. The race was on Sunday, so Thursday I did my 3-day carb load, and I started to hydrate Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as well. So that was definitely one thing that I switched up. And aside from just your carbs, like you could get from your solid foods or your hydration from your electrolytes, another thing that I did do was make sure that I dialed into my gels as well. Gels are a very big important part when it comes to your race. For me personally, when I Pittsburgh was, I believe I had only 4 gels throughout the whole race, and I think that's why I cramped at mile 14. But for this one, I had a total of 6 gels. So I had 1 prior to race day, then I had 1 every 4 miles. So I had 14, 8, 12, 16, and 20. I spread them out that way, just because I knew that I needed to get them in as fast as possible. Even when my stomach felt full. You might feel that as well, because coming up from a carb load into race day, your stomach feels too bloated. You have the baby belly. But you need to make sure that throughout the whole race, you're making sure you're putting in those carbs, because at the beginning it might feel like you're overstuffing yourself. But as the race goes on and progresses, you need to make sure that you have enough energy reserves. That's what I did. I made sure that I wasn't gonna cramp and I wasn't gonna bong. So mile 4, 8, 12, 16, I made sure I had those gels right on it. In mile 20, I had my last gel, which helped me push to that finish line. So gels as well goes in hand with the nutrition. Again, for gels, there are different varieties out there. I use the Goop Lemon Life flavor. There's a bunch out there. Find what works best for you. Order them, or order some from Amazon or different running stores have them on the shelves. You could go grab 2 from each brand, different flavors, just to see what sits well to your stomach. So like that, you know that that's gonna work best for you when it comes to race. So that's why I put nutrition and fueling at number 1, because it is probably the most important thing you can do and dialing on. For example, right? It's like trying to drive a Lamborghini that needs to go fast and needs to go far. If you want to go fast and far, you can't just put any kind of gas on it. You have to put the best kind of gas on a Lamborghini. And the same thing goes for our body. If you want to go fast and for long, you need to put the proper fueling into your body. You need to make sure that your body can sustain and is not gonna bunk at mile 18, 19, because you didn't prepare correctly, you didn't carb up correctly, you didn't hydrate correctly. So I believe that that's definitely the first one, especially when you're trying to go for a sub 3, when you're trying to run 6.52 a mile and your body's just using all these energy resources. You need to make sure that you have enough energy reserves throughout the whole race. That's number 1. Okay, so my second tip is to implement goal marathon pace workouts. So in Pittsburgh, we were running a lot of long, easy miles. Again, it's good. I was having a lot of time on my feet, but I wasn't really preparing to run 6.52 miles for 26 miles. That I didn't have marathon goal pace workouts in the prep, I just didn't have enough. So now for Philadelphia, we switched that up a lot. We made sure that we implemented a lot more marathon pace workouts within the prep. So for Pittsburgh, I would say we were doing like a 80-20 rule. For Philadelphia, we switched it up to a 60-40, 65-35 rule, where we were having more intensity rather than just having longer volume at easy miles. So for example, one of the workouts that I had for this Philadelphia marathon was my peak workout, right? So let me tell you what it was. So it was a 2.5 mile easy. Then we had 5 rounds or 5 sets of 3 miles at 640 mile per pace. And then we had a 800-meter float at a 715 mile per pace. And then we had 2 miles easy. Now, if you really look at the math, that's almost doing 15-16 miles at marathon pace. Again, that translates into race day because it's gonna help my body understand, like, hey, listen, this is how you're supposed to feel at mile 14, 15 with going at this certain pace. Because if you're not getting your body prepared to run at that certain pace for 26.2 miles at prep, when it comes to race day, you're going to be at mile 15, 16, 17 cramping up, or your body's not going to be so used to it that you're just going to be like, this is unknown territory, and you're just going to buck, and you don't want that to happen. So that's why for me, implementing marathon goal paces in your prep is so important, and I will highly recommend anybody that's trying to break the sub 3 or any goal to implement whatever you're doing. Have 16, 17, 18 miles at that marathon pace, so your body gets adapted to it, so like that your body knows how it's going to feel. Again, I'm not saying you have to do that every week, because I didn't do that, but I made sure I did 1 week, long easy miles, next week long tempo marathon pace workouts, so like that your body gets adapted to it more. My third tip will be proper recovery, or in other words, sleep. Sleep is such an important factor when it comes to trying to figure out or trying to PR your next race or trying to get a better time, just because your body needs that rest, needs the recovery from all the pounding of those miles you're putting in and day out. What I did differently this time around was that for Pittsburgh, I was honestly just getting between 5 to 6 hours of sleep every day, which wasn't really enough, especially when it came to maximize my efforts in the long tempo workouts or in my long runs in the week. So that's what I definitely switched up for this prep. I made sure I had minimum between 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single day, making sure that my body was fully rested, making sure that my legs were fully rested and properly recovered to hit those big workouts. So sleep is such an important factor. I know a lot of times each individual is different. You might have family, kids to take care of, work-wise. A lot of factors go into it. But if you're able to just make sure to dial in and get that proper recovery for your body, it will pay you dividends in the long run, just because you're going to be able to maximize everything that your body is going to be able to do. Because if you're only getting 5-6 hours of sleep every day, your body's not going to be able to recover properly and as fast enough to hit those long tempo workouts or to hit those big mileage weeks. It's gonna be hard. So I'll definitely say proper recovery, proper sleep. My fourth tip will be having a proper race strategy. So what do I mean by strategy? So a lot of times when you are at the start of the corral, start of your race, energy's high, everyone's hype around you, everyone's just ready to, to let it rip. But that's where you need to have a strategy and you need to have patience. Because at the start of those first mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, everyone's just off the energy and they're going bananas. And a lot of times that we get caught in that. I got caught in that in Pittsburgh. I got caught that in my first marathon in Brooklyn, because I was trying to stick to everybody. I was trying to stick to the 3-hour group. I was trying to stick to the people that were going at the pace that I wanted to go. And guess what? I burned out because they had a different strategy than mine. And I remember in Pittsburgh, my first mile, I believe, was a 6:23. I was going out high. So obviously by mile 10, I was already burning out, and that's why I bonked at mile 14. But for this one, I made sure that I was going to conserve my energy. The strategy was conserve energy the first 5-6 miles, make sure that I don't burn out, make sure that I get into my groove. So those first 7 miles was get into the groove, get dialed in, get mentally into the race. Make sure how you're feeling, how is the body feeling, how is the legs feeling, are you properly, do you feel good, do you feel like you're cramping up? If not, okay, now time to ramp it up little by little bit. And from mile 7 to 14, hills were coming up, understand, hey listen, I'm not gonna burn out in these next 7 miles. I'm gonna hold off as well. I know that I might not be hitting my paces for the goal, but I know I'm gonna be reserving that energy in order for me to use those energy reserves at the end. And from mile 14 to 22, understand that, hey listen, this was the flat course, this was the flat race. Boom, I start incrementing mile by mile, going up 2-3 seconds faster than the previous mile. And from mile 22 to 26, I knew that I had so much energy left that I reserved from those early miles that I was gonna let it rip and, you know, and finish the race strong. And one thing that I've been learning throughout these races is it's better to start. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? It's so cliche, but it's so true. And it's better that you start off, yes, at 7:10, 7:15, even 7:30 mile per pace, your first mile or two, and finish at a 6:20, at a 6:15 mile per pace, rather than the other way around, that you start at a 6:20 mile per pace, at a 6:05 mile per pace, because you're so high up the energy. But mile 25, 26, you're at an 8 mile per pace, 8:05 mile per pace, and guess what? Bonk, and you don't hit your goal because you're not able to push them, or depending whatever your goal is. So strategy is such a big part. Make sure that you know exactly what you're gonna do in race day, how you're gonna tackle each mile, how you're gonna tackle each section, because there are sections in the race. There are gonna be hills, depending how the race, what course you choose, right? So strategy is such an important factor. My tip 5 is, now this may seem so obvious, but not for me. It's getting the proper shoes for race day. So when it came to Pittsburgh and my first ever marathon at Brooklyn, I used my daily trainers. I did not get no super shoes because I didn't think they make a difference. Now, I'm not saying super shoes or carbon plated shoes are going to make a difference, but they certainly do help out in a way. So for Pittsburgh, I use my Saucony Kinvara 13s. It's what I use for my sub 119 in Austin, Texas for my half marathon, and it's what I trained for the whole prep, and I felt comfortable with them. But again, 13 miles to 26 miles is a whole complete story, and your feet need proper cushion. So what I did was I went to my local running shop here in Brooklyn, tested out some shoes, looked at some reviews on YouTube as well, and looked at, you know, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, and honestly I fell in love with them, and they felt really great on my shoes. They were carbon plated, and I made sure that I tested them out throughout the prep, how they felt for my long runs, and they felt amazing. So in race day, they felt super well on my feet, they didn't swell up, and they just made me fly. It was like time to fly. But again, I'm not saying it's going to make a difference, but for me, it's understanding that you have to take every advantage that you can to make sure that you hit your goal, and use everything in your power that you're able to control. You're able to control the proper shoes you're gonna wear, find the proper shoes. Don't just throw anything on, which I did. I threw on my Kinvaras because I thought that those were gonna help me out, but they didn't. So proper shoes, getting them tested out works out. Again, I know people who have fast marathons who don't use proper carbon plated shoes or super shoes, and they're on freaking fast. But it's all up to the individual. That's what worked for me. That's what made me hit the sub 3, which I know helped me a lot compared to just regular Kinvaras who didn't have the carbon plate, that didn't make me like bounce off faster compared to the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. So again, go to your running store, check what's best for you, and make sure that you test them out during the prep, so when it comes to race day, you're comfortable with them. My tip 6 is, I see them as too obvious like the last one, but it's finding the appropriate race for you. When I came to Pittsburgh, I was coming off a high, and I was feeling over the moon. I hit a sub 130 on my half, and I felt happy. So I rushed into just picking any race that was close to me, that, you know, was in the next couple of months, and I thought that within a 10-week prep, I was gonna be able to hit sub 3. I didn't realize, and I didn't study the race, I didn't study the course, that Pittsburgh, it's all about hills, and it just shattered me, and that's why I wasn't able to accomplish that goal. So I think that definitely finding the right race makes a lot of difference. Understanding what race you're getting yourself into, studying the course. Is it hilly? How much elevation does it have? Temperature during that day, wind gushes during the day, because all those factors come into play. Again, they're things we can't control, but if you're able to figure out what's the best course or what's the best race with the least things and least conditions that are going to affect it, why not take advantage of that? You don't want to go into a race in the middle of the summer at 80 degrees and try and go for a sub 3 or whatever your goal is, because it's harder than doing it at 40 degrees, right? So definitely finding the right course. I put a link below of the website that I use just to see what's, what races are coming up, what is flat, what is downhill, what has hills, and wind, temperature, and all those things, and all those factors that go into it. Again, I hope this helps a person or two out there PR their next race or better their time, or maybe break that sub 3 hour. Again, I'm no expert in this. This is just exactly what worked for me. And most of all, this is just the beginning of my running journey. I can't wait to keep growing. I can't wait to keep sharing with you guys everything that I keep learning throughout all these preps, throughout all these marathons, and keep hitting these new PRs. And for the people as well out there, if you're watching this, I hope you're able to keep growing and keep hitting new PRs, setting new goals, and keep raising the standard for yourself and what you want to achieve in your fitness goals and anything that you want to achieve in life. Doing these marathons, man, it has taught me a lot, honestly, that we have barely scratched the surface of our potential. And I know many of you out there as well, maybe haven't even scratched the surface of what your true potential is. But that's the great thing about marathon training. You're able to figure out what potential you have, and this is just the beginning. I know that the ceiling, I haven't even reached the ceiling. I haven't even reached the top of my potential. So again, I hope somebody sips up a person or two out there. Thank you for sitting with me here for, I don't know, the last 20 plus minutes of just chatting around and talking about running. Who would ever thought that I'll be here talking about running? And with that being said, catch you guys in the next video. Don't forget, follow me on Instagram, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be posting more content, more tips. If you guys want to learn more, or if you guys have any questions regarding anything that I spoke about today, shoot me a DM. I'll be more than happy to answer, more than happy to help out. And always remember, SI se puede. Let's make it happen.